It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join News Director Paul David and News Editor Philip Catalfamo as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics in Yavapai County that affect all our lives. And now here's today's Countywide.
To another episode of Countywide. I'm your host, Philip Catalfamo. I'd like to thank you for joining me. On today's show, we're talking holiday depression, and my guest today is West Yavapai Guidance Clinic's Kelly Legler. She's the Chief Clinical Officer at West Yavapai Guidance Clinic. We brought Kelly in around September to speak about the Suicide Prevention Month. We thought we'd bring her back to talk about holiday depression. This is a very tough time of the year for a lot of people who may be having family who don't live close, who may be having issues with traveling due to COVID-19, some holiday traditions having to be changed up because of COVID-19, or maybe they're just celebrating the holidays alone. Whatever the case may be, we want to talk a little bit about why and what resources are there, how you can start those conversations, and we thought Kelly would be great to bring in to talk about that. So Kelly, welcome back on the show. We are happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
So Kelly, I thought we'd start out pretty straightforward. Why is depression so common during such a festive time of the year?
Yeah, the holiday season is typically the busiest time of the year for most people, between year-end deadlines for work, at home, holiday activities, changes in the weather patterns, flu season, so health factors, and of course you add on COVID on top of that. But they also bring added social obligations, and it could be uncomfortable for people to talk about why they want to cancel plans or why they feel like staying at home, why they're not feeling well. And then there's other factors in terms of the winter season and the cold season and the significant lack of vitamin D and reduced access to sunlight, which plays a major factor in our ability to be able to kind of overcome the symptoms of depression and the feeling of sadness. Chilly weather leads to less outdoor time. So there's a lot of different contributing factors around this time of year that all kind of boil into one pot of a challenging situation for somebody to maneuver.
Why do you think depression is more likely for this season? It's supposed to be so family-centered. Like I said, there's a lot of traditions for Christmas. There's a lot of, or even Thanksgiving. I know we're a little bit past that, but, this time of the year is supposed to be so together, but in a lot of ways, in a lot of situations and cases, it's not that, some people just have family who live far, they can't travel. We know, like you mentioned, Kelly, with COVID-19, it's an absolute nightmare, but just normally, even in a regular year, this is a very tough time of the year for a lot of people. So why do we see a lot more of these depression numbers go up and possibly even suicide numbers go up around Christmas time as opposed to other holidays that are, sort of similar like Valentine's Day?
Yeah. So, we have, to your point, we do have several holidays in one very short season. And then you bring in, of course, the factors that I included before with regards to the weather. And we don't think about that as being a contributing factor to our mood and our ability to overcome stress. So, all these holidays in this short period of time involve typically, the whole family, involve different cultures, involve maybe the culture of spending a lot of money on gifts or traveling, and that all comes with the obligation and the responsibility of spending money instead of spending time. So you mentioned Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day usually, for people who celebrate Valentine's Day traditionally, is between you and your partner, and Hallmark maybe. But it's not, the entire family traveling, getting together, the stresses of the family dynamic, all these things that we know and we experience thinking, oh my gosh, my family is just a nightmare, can be a crazy or whatever. And we all experience that. And we all have, the quirky sibling or cousin or whoever that might be. So all these little factors play into why this season is challenging, because we have so many of these things, in such a short period of time.
You say Hallmark, I'm more of a Lifetime movie kind of guy, but you talk about the weather having effects on people. We know that there are a lot of portions in the United States and throughout the world where, you don't get a whole lot of sunlight, more specifically, let's say like Washington or Seattle, where it's constantly overcast or it's raining a lot. And I know that doesn't necessarily affect here as much, but it's still something that can affect people. So I want to ask, what is seasonal affective disorder?
Right. So it's important first to understand that there is a significant difference between bouts of sadness and clinical depression. So sadness is usually when there's it's transitionary and it's a reaction to kind of external events. Clinical depression is a medical illness that's persistent and recurring. So many people who experience depression during the same time of year, so winter time of year, are diagnosed with seasonal affective disorder. And it can be crippling. It's, the feelings of apathy, of hopelessness, suicidal ideations, functional impairment. There's a lot of things that can trigger that. And again, mentioning the things before in terms of the weather, the stress that comes with it, can also be traumatic events that trigger seasonal affective disorder. So, maybe the loss of a loved one or a traumatic event that happened when we were younger, we're not always cognizant of when we're triggered by that event. And it could be, this time of year because of those outside factors. It could be this time of year because that's when the incident happened.
Right.
So seasonal affective disorder really is, it's real. A lot of people, kind of brush it off as, that's because you don't want to go out and do these things and you're using this kind of as a crutch, but it is very real.
I want to get out some phone numbers here. We got the West Yavapai Guidance Clinic's crisis hotline. That is 928-445-5211, extension 3900. The main office number, 928-445-5211. The National Suicide Hotline for anybody who may be experiencing suicidal thoughts or they know somebody who is. You can contact the National Suicide Hotline at 800-273-8255. You talk a little bit about the weather affecting, different, depression or anxiety or things that attribute that time of the year with an event or something like that. But are some conditions affected more by the holidays than others?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say anxiety and depression, those are the big ones, because we look at what causes anxiety and depression or what exacerbates it, makes it worse. So if you already have a baseline of maybe social interactions, maybe some, when I talked about bouts of sadness, if you already have kind of a baseline of feeling depressed at times, anxious at times, and then you add on all the other contributing factors as well as social isolation. Again, COVID is huge right now, and we can't put that aside of how that's impacting our mental health. So.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's such a tough time of the year in general, and then you add on COVID-19. Even myself trying to travel back to California, I'm finding a lot of issues of having to make sure that the state itself isn't shut down, to make sure that the county my folks live in isn't shut down, and it does make travel a little bit hard. And I love Christmas time. We have a big tradition in my family to go over to my grandmother's house. I spend it with my mom's side of the family. All my cousins come down, my uncles, my aunts, my sister comes down from Prescott. And now this year it's a little bit different. I know a lot of people are experiencing different traditions, a different type of Christmas, which is terrible because Christmas is on a very convenient day of the week in Friday, and it's almost perfect this time of the year to travel anywhere for Christmas because after Christmas you've got the weekend, so you've got time to travel, go back home, go back from your original home back to your current home if you're working. It's really sad that we're not able to get a normal Christmas this year because it's a weirdly convenient year for the season. But I know that this time of the year is very, very hard for a lot of people who don't have family traditions, people who aren't close to their families, people who can't travel because of COVID, people who can't travel because of finances or family issues, or there are so many different factors, and there are a lot of warning signs that you need to look out for as well. We're going to talk a little bit about that on the other side of this break. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about some of those warning signs that you should look out for if somebody is having a very, very tough time during this time of the year. Countywide, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Who doesn't dream of home improvements? Perhaps your kitchen, the real living room. Maybe the bathroom, where you bookend your day. Langstrand Contracting is your one-stop shop from tear down to finishing touches. With 35 years of experience, Chris and his team will work with you to match your family's style and budget. Call Langstrand Contracting today for guidance in bringing your vision to life.
Hi, this is Greg at Verde Solar Power. You know, Arizona has lots of clean, renewable sunshine, and we want to help you take advantage of it with our quality solar installations, and we offer to beat any written offer on a residential solar electric system. So bring us your electric bill and let us show you how solar power will save you money. We're located conveniently here in the Verde Valley and are dedicated to helping the valley go solar. So remember, the energy solution comes up every morning.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
Terrifying job. Snake handler, take one.
James, this is a really terrifying job. Given the hazards, why do you do it?
I've been fascinated by reptiles since I was a child.
Tell me about your little friend there.
So this is Bear Hug. He's a Burmese python. We have him here at the Phoenix Zoo.
It kind of makes my skin crawl. Is there anything that rattles you?
Yeah, distracted drivers terrify me.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Philip Catalfamo. On today's show, we're talking holiday depression, and my guest today is Chief Clinical Officer at West Yavapai Guidance Clinic, Kelly Legler. Earlier in the show, we talked about some of the reasons why we see a lot of the depression numbers go up during the holiday season, but now I wanted to talk a little bit more about the warning signs. So Kelly, let's just start out. Are there any warning signs of holiday depression to look out for?
Yeah. So first of all, there's some risk factors for holiday sadness that I just wanted to mention to look out for as well. So setting up unrealistic expectations for this perfect holiday. That it's going to be really important not to set unrealistic expectations, really not to set a lot of expectations. Maybe have, the daily to-do lists and just work towards the daily tasks that we can complete. Trying to do too much. Again, that goes back to the to-do list of, I want this all to look perfect and to be perfect. And so I'm going to overwork myself and not take time for myself and the importance of self-care.
Right.
Putting that aside, comparison to other, this idea that social media, these people on, Instagram, that this is what the perfect holiday looks like. And that is continually damaging to our own ability to maintain happiness, let alone have our own perfect holiday with our own family, because this isn't what it looks like on the Kardashians. So it can't be real.
or on a Hallmark movie or a Lifetime movie. That being said, but
more murder mystery, but
yeah. You talk a little bit about self-care. How important is that self-care during this time of the year?
So important. I like to think of, and what I remind staff is it's like on an airplane, hopefully this has never happened, but on an airplane, when the oxygen mask goes down, you have your infant next to you or a loved one next to you, and every ounce of your body is to put that oxygen mask over that person first, because you want to protect them and you're able to protect them. But if you're a good flight attendee, you're listening to the stewardess, and that's not what you should do. You should put it over yourself first, because the reality is, this saying of you can't pour from an empty cup, or you can't take care of somebody when you're not taking care of yourself. So we can give and give and give, and eventually there's not going to be much to give from, because we're going to be burnt out, we're going to be frustrated. That's where it triggers the depression. It triggers, the sadness and the feeling of I'm not enough. Yeah. And it's very damaging. So something as simple as just doing little things every single day and maintaining that habit is so powerful to our overall mental health.
The West Yavapai Guidance Clinic crisis helpline is 928-445-5211, extension 3900. Their main office number 928-445-5211, and their national hotline, the national suicide hotline 800-273-8255. It's very tough to get that conversation going about depression, about anxiety. There are a lot of people who are very closed off about those issues. There are probably people people who have those issues, who don't ever discuss them. So I think first and foremost, how do you start that conversation with somebody who is going to be, maybe they say, oh, no, it's fine. It's okay. I don't want to travel for the holidays anyway. It's no big deal. I'll go see my family some other time. Or, how do you start that conversation with somebody who may be in denial or who just doesn't really want to talk about it? Or how do you get that conversation started?
Yeah. I just had one the other day with a friend that I haven't talked to in a while, and a similar conversation happened of not wanting to do this, not wanting to do that. Right. And I just sensed that they were off in terms of that's not our normal conversation. And so just me simply saying, "You doing okay? I'm worried about you. You don't sound, like you're doing okay." Yeah. And just asking that question and holding space and being genuine and wanting to know. I wasn't going into a therapy session. I wasn't going into, a question of, gosh, I don't know what the answer is going to look like, so I'm afraid to ask it. Or if, something's really wrong, I don't know what to do to give them the answers for that. I was literally just saying, you okay? This doesn't sound like you. And so again, to normalize the importance of just having that connection.
We talked a little bit about this during the month of September, which was the COVID aspect and how it affects children. We know that the holiday season, at least when I was a kid, like I said, I love Christmas. I love Christmas time. I'm born on Halloween, but I love Christmas. I'll always have. And this is a very special time of the year. This is an opportunity, like I said, for me to go see my cousins and my uncles and aunts, and it's always really great. This year, a little different for kids. Outside of the holiday aspect of it, they're still in school. A lot of county schools have reverted back to their online model or their hybrid model where they don't have to be in person. And I just kind of wanted to touch upon this briefly. How important is it to talk to your kids about how they're feeling during this time of the year, especially with, being in and out of school and seeing their friends and not seeing them? How important is it to have that conversation as well?
So important. As parents, we assume that when they go to school, the teachers have got it. Between the hours of 8 and 3, they're taking care of my child. If there's any bullying going on, if there's any sadness going on, feeling like they might not be fitting in, whatever that might be, we have trust in our teachers to be able to manage that. Yeah. And so, now that they're online, the teachers can only do so much. Their superhuman powers are pretty limited when we're talking about virtual learning. So the added pressure, or the responsibility is then equally shifted to the person who's at home, the family who's at home, to be able to ask those questions. How was school? Tell me about that last class that you did. What is it like going to school? Going to school online. Do you enjoy it? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? Are you looking forward to going back to school in person? Yeah. Maybe yes, maybe no. Give me some reasons as to why. And just getting to know our kids again in terms of, and not to imply that we don't know our children now, but this is all such a different experience for them. So really stopping and asking the question of, how is this experience impacting them? Because we know it would impact us.
Just kind of, I know we got a little under a minute, but I just wanted to ask this. I noticed in my age range, the conversation about anxiety and depression is one of self-deprecation and one of self-diagnosing in a few cases, where people will say, oh, it's this because of my anxiety or this because of my depression. Does that sort of mentality dilute the importance of having that conversation about real issues? Because there is a difference between being sad and having depression and being nervous and having anxiety.
Yeah. No, you said it perfectly. It does. It minimizes it. It perpetuates the stigma around mental health. So the reality is, whether I'm using it, in just general conversation of, oh, my anxiety is bad, the reality is that's real for me at some degree. Right. And so it's not up to anybody else to judge how that anxiety is impacting me, whether or not it's real, because you don't know my story. You don't know, what I'm struggling with. I might just use that in kind of passing, but the reality is it's real for me.
Well, we got still a little bit more to talk with here on Countywide. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the resources that are available for those who may be spending the holidays alone or those who can't travel. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about those resources right here on Countywide. Don't go anywhere.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
The EPA says C&B Construction ranks in the top 1% nationally. C&B Construction invites you to see what energy efficiency and indoor air quality can be. We have won another Department of Energy Innovation Award, and C&B Construction is the only contractor in the country to win 6 consecutive EPA Indoor Air Plus awards. Experience our zero-energy, move-in-ready homes at Crossroads at Mingus.
C&B Construction, locally respected, nationally recognized. Find out more at candbhomes.com.
Been hearing about the crazy benefits of CBD? Find out how CBD can help you at Sedona's #1 resource, CBD Sedona. Come in for a free consultation and let our trained medical staff help you find the perfect product for you. Pain-relieving salves, full-spectrum oils, CBD skincare, bath bombs, and even CBD for your pets. Come on by CBD Sedona today.
Terrifying jobs, high-flying linemen, take 3.
Josh, this is an absolutely terrifying job. Why do you do it?
It's a very demanding job, but very rewarding and exciting.
How much energy are you actually working with up there?
500,000 volts of electricity.
It's definitely not my line of work. Does anything shock you?
Yeah, distracted drivers terrify me.
Welcome back to Countywide. We are continuing our conversation about holiday depression with Chief Clinical Officer at West Yavapai Guidance Clinic, Kelly Legler. I am Philip Catalfamo. Earlier in the show, we talked about why depression is so common around this time of the year. We also talked about some of the warning signs and some of the conversations that you should be having with some of those people who are unable to enjoy this time of the year. And now, Kelly, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, are there any myths or misconceptions about this time of the year?
Yeah, similar to what we talked about back in September with the suicide prevention conversation, stigma, it's the biggest barrier to people obtaining the services that they need. So when we go to myths and misconceptions, really the importance of asking somebody, of assuming that that somebody wants to be asked if they're okay, that if you ask, the myth would be if you asked that it would make it different. If I asked if you're sad, you're going to get sad. If I asked if you're feeling of harming yourself, you're going to harm yourself. And it's damaging to think that way. It's just truly polar opposite of what needs to happen in order to help make a difference in somebody's life.
Yeah, it is very important to have those conversations, those very tough conversations, because you don't know how you can help or how much you help when you open up the floor to that sort of conversation with somebody who doesn't really want to have it. What resources are available? I know we rattled off a few phone numbers early on, but what other resources are available for some people who may not really enjoy this time of the year?
Yeah, there's, you've mentioned our address and our CSU or our phone number and our crisis stabilization unit. And of course, our crisis stabilization units open 24/7. And that's always, again, my crisis looks different than yours. There's no need that's too big or too small to come into the CSU, and we'll connect resources. But outside of West Yavapai and outside of the crisis stabilization unit, there's so many community partners that are here to do well for people. We have such a good community in Yavapai County for people that just genuinely care. So if you need a meal, you can go to the website, to our website, and you could be connected to other agencies. If you just need to talk to somebody, again, calling a behavioral health clinic doesn't mean that we're going to admit you and put you in services for the rest of your life.
Right.
Calling a number and just saying, I am feeling really low right now and I need some help. That is what we're all here for. Every single agency. That's what we're all here for.
And again, the West Yavapai Guidance Clinic Crisis Helpline is 928-445-5211. That is extension 3900. Their main office number is 928-445-5211. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Kelly, we are out of time, but I want to thank you very much for coming on the show. It is always great talking with you, and I wish you a happy holidays, happy New Year, and we look forward to speaking to you again.
Thank you. Same to you.
All right, with that, Countywide is wrapping up here, and I just want to tell everybody that if you are experiencing any issues during this time of the year, please reach out any way you can, whether it's the Suicide Prevention Hotline, whether it is speaking to somebody like Kelly Legler at the West Yavapai Guidance Clinic, or even if it's just talking with a loved one or a friend. Don't be afraid to have those conversations. Don't be afraid to start those conversations. And with that, I want to wish you all a very safe and happy holiday, safe travels if you're traveling, safe return when you return back. Happy New Year. We'll see you next time.